A very tragic situation at a McDonald's in Hyattsville, Maryland, March 2025, where a security guard shot and killed a homeless man. And what's really, really compounding the tragedy is that the staff and the security guard had the key to successfully and effectively de-escalate the situation. My name is John. I'm a retired police officer and an Army veteran. I'm also a certified crisis intervention specialist through the Anger Management Association. Check out this video.
Change.
Yes, that's what I say. Okay, sit down. Sit down, so sit down. Want this motherfucker? Go ahead, man. There you go. 195. There you go. There you go, man. What you doing, dude? There you go. You heard it right one time. This is a weapon. There you go, sir. There you go. There you go, man. There you go. There you go, motherfucker. Yeah, this talk. You don't hurt my butt.
Oh, I think the first one had more flavor. They're both good. The first one had more big flavor.
Many studies have shown that a critical component to effective, successful conflict de-escalation is the relationship, the rapport between the person in crisis and the person trying to de-escalate that situation. As a matter of fact, one of the studies that I comment on and refer to in my training seminars is one that was published in 2020 in England. They spent years going through all these psychiatric hospitals that catered to the criminally insane and people with severe mental illness that were very violent. And they asked the staff, the volunteers, and patients, what was a critical component for effective de-escalation? And the number one response between patients, staff, and volunteers at these, again, these psychiatric facilities was the relationship and the rapport between the person in crisis and the person trying to de-escalate that situation. Now, the news article shows that this homeless person at this McDonald's in Maryland was well known to everybody. He was known to hang out and loiter, and they have had to call the police to ask him to leave numerous times before. Well, one more time, here he was again. Now, folks, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. When you allow yourself to become frustrated, impatient, or offended, you're more likely than not going to say or do something that could escalate the situation. I've seen that time and time again, and I think what happened here was the security guard became offended and frustrated and then impatient when the homeless man did not leave when the security guard told him to. He pepper sprays the man, who still sits there. And according to the news article, it was about 5 minutes later that the security guard pulls out his baton, expands it, and now it's poking and prodding the homeless man, our victim, in the chest. And that's where the video picks up. He's sitting in the booth, and you see the security guard standing over him, poking him in the chest. That hurts. Well, our victim starts to defend himself, and all he does is grab onto the baton. He doesn't want to be struck. He doesn't want to be poked and prodded. He doesn't attack the security guard. All he does is grab on the baton. And you see the struggle. And then finally, the homeless guy, our victim, lets go of the baton. And what does he do? He turns away. He's not in imminent danger of great bodily harm or death to the security guard. He doesn't want to fight. He just doesn't want to be messed with. He lets go of the baton and he turns around. And what does the security guard do? Wallops him with the baton. Well, obviously that triggered a defensive maneuver from our victim, who now turns around and has had enough. He's been pepper sprayed, he's been poked and prodded, and now he's been beat. And all he wanted was to be left alone and stay someplace where it's warm and dry. Now, mind you, the police were on the way. Well, you see what happens. Our victim starts to fight and attack the guard, who can't handle it, and ultimately, sadly, pulls out a gun and shoots our victim once in the chest. Let me show you how playing your ace card and how taking advantage of this key critical component of effective, successful conflict de-escalation could have made a world of difference. You know the victim. You've seen him before. You've dealt with him before. You've had to ask him to leave many, many times before. You don't have to be a jerk about it when you approach this person. You can just come up to them. You don't look like a threat. You take care of your ACE, A appearance. You don't look like a threat. You don't look antagonistic, confrontational, condescending, or demeaning. Just walk up to them and say, "Hey, John, how you doing?" Tone of voice and the words you use. Friendly greeting. "Hey, John, how you doing?" "Hey, man, you can't be hanging out right here." Engagement. You know he's going to probably come back after you ask him to leave, but you know what? How about develop a relationship in the first place? "Hey, John, you're going to have to go, man. Manager's getting upset, but I tell you what, can I get you a coffee to go?" It doesn't cost you anything to give a free coffee to a homeless man just to get him, if it meant that much to get him to leave the premises, work with him. Now, mind you, again, the police were on their way, and then they would have to do what they have to do. You did not, the security guard and all the staff did not have to get themselves so worked up over a situation that was working itself out. He wasn't loud, rude, obnoxious. He wasn't being threatening to anyone. He wasn't breaking anything, and he wasn't attacking anyone. He was just sitting right there in the booth, especially after he got pepper sprayed. He wasn't doing anything. And when you watch the video, the security guard let himself get way worked up, way too impatient, way too frustrated, and then you see what happened. After you make contact with someone that you already have a relationship with, you can just absolutely just work with them. You grab a seat across from them, have a few words. "Hey, how things going? Hey, you know what, John, I need to ask you to leave, for a couple hours and whatnot." The fact that this McDonald's had an armed security guard already shows you that they're in a kind of iffy place in the first place. And it's absolutely critical that you learn, all the staff there, learn to be able to communicate and use their head and use their mouth to interact with the people that they're going to come in contact with. Because the police are going to be there like that. You're the first responders until the first responders get there. You've got to be able to begin the de-escalation process before the police arrive. And this situation absolutely was manageable based on my own life experiences as a police officer dealing with homeless people many, many times in 20 years. Everyone wants to be treated with dignity and respect. Just because this person is homeless doesn't change that. And showing a little empathy and compassion and treating them with dignity and respect in your engagement, the letter E in ACE, absolutely would have made a difference. So A, appearance. You don't look condescending. You don't look aggressive. You don't look confrontational. As you approach John, using an imaginary homeless person, John, and then communication, the words you use, your tone of voice, just a friendly greeting and engagement. Just sit down and talk for a quick moment, and then offer John a cup of coffee or a bottle of water or whatever, and just have him scoot out the door. Chances are really good, and at least I noticed this in all the establishments that I dealt with that dealt with homeless people. You have some people that you're going to deal with all the time. It is better to develop a relationship with them so that when you need them to leave the premises, they are more likely than not going to go. Chances are good, they're going to come back. You don't have to be rude about it. It's really unfortunate the way this situation ended up. It absolutely did not have to go that way. Folks, if you're a security guard, slow down and assess the situation. What exactly are the limits of your control and your authority and the use of force? I just drew a complete blank. What's the use of force continuum for you? What's your use of force policy procedure? Now, as a police officer, if I needed someone to do something or whatever, and they were verbally non-compliant or they were physically non-compliant, like just sitting there, I could pepper spray them. But that's because I ultimately had the powers of arrest if it kept escalating in that direction. But as a security guard, make sure you know what the law is and what your responsibilities and your duties and your authority is before you end up saying or doing things that escalate the situation. Did the security guard have the right to pepper spray a man? I don't know. Maybe he did. But at the same time, Once you pepper spray someone, immediately make sure that you do have the police on the way, because you just exercised force on somebody. You have just exponentially increased civil liability for you, your security agency, and the client once you started doing things like that. And then to pull out your baton and start poking someone again, just make sure, I'm not saying it's not wrong, just make sure that it calls for it in that moment. Assess the situation. What do you have? What exactly are your options? Do you have backup coming? What are the things that you can say or do to actually have this end peacefully, okay, before you end up being so jacked up, worked up, offended, impatient, and frustrated that you end up shooting a man to death? Come on. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next video.